Well, the book, which is called Wise Management in Organisational Complexity, is really a collection of 13 different essays and a number of different authors, both from China and the West, who've tried to find ways of exploring this idea of wise management. And by doing so, they've looked at Aristotle, Confucius, as well as more contemporary philosophers, and also some recent psychological research to try to understand distinctly what wisdom brings to our understanding of management, which has, in the 20th century, been largely based on the idea of knowledge and the concept of knowledge management. So what then does wisdom do in addition to knowledge? Well, I think wisdom relates to the human capacity and the faculty to be able to use knowledge in a way that brings judgments when you may not be sure of all the facts. You may not have all the facts, but you have to make a decision. And wisdom is a sort of faculty that brings together a consciousness of the other person. So there's a kind of ethical, humane dimension to it. So it's being able to make wise decisions that are well informed, but require not simply the data and the knowledge, but a capacity from within the person to interpret that knowledge and come to a decision, both with a combination of intuition and experience, and with an idea of humanity and benevolence towards the other. Well, if we look at the financial crisis, and it's a complex topic, but there seem to be two very distinct reasons why we hit the failure that we did. There were triggers both in London and New York. In America, there was the subprime mortgage crisis, and then the collateral damage on the investment banks that had securitized the mortgage-backed loans that were toxic. And those investments were made with the best rationale and models that were available, one of which is the value at risk model. So simply following, rational management processes, actually trusting those processes to do the work and relying on computer modelling was actually wrong, because in the end you only need a 1% chance that your value at risk model isn't going to work, and that's what happened. There was no previous experience of the subprime crisis, so when it happened, that wasn't in the model, and people had invested big time. So there's that one reason, which is the trust in a rational model that was faulty, wasn't safe, then combined with the opportunism of, if you like, an over-enlarged self-interest, and we call that selfishness. So the financial crisis, one hopes, has given a lot of lessons, not only in terms of the use of risk modelling, but in the kind of people that we need to recruit at senior board level. And there has been a transformation, I think, in the requirements of board members, both in the US and in Europe, as a result of the financial crisis, and a much closer scrutiny is now given on the kind of, if you like, the ethical quality, the wise management qualities of those businesses and business leaders that occupy those positions. Aristotle had a fantastic way of articulating if you like, the noble life. What is a life that is well worth living, and what does it look like, and how do we practice it? So if we think about management as being an art, and that's what Peter Drucker said it was, he said management's a liberal art. So the idea that you can force it into being a scientific instrument alone is not fully the full picture. Management has an art, it's got a sense of human development. So it's this combination of intuition and knowledge. And he said, well, you also, another word for wisdom that he used was techne. And techne is the kind of technical knowledge that one needs to be a wise person. He referred to Sophia, which is, if you like, a high classical transcendent view of wisdom. If you like, it's the beauty of wisdom. It's that wisdom that enables us to appreciate the aesthetic virtues in life. And when you apply that to management, it becomes quite interesting, because one of the great calls of our time is to be innovative. Well, to be innovative, one needs to look beyond the techne, if you like, into the Sophia, which is the capacity to observe life, to observe one's environment, and to allow a creative, intuitive spirit to give an insight into a business, a product, a service that doesn't exist at the moment. And to do that, we don't get that from data alone. Data is a good reference point, it's an important reference point, and a wise person uses data. But there is something else. We live in a very complex world. Our business is extremely complex. There is a lot of knowledge, more knowledge than we can cope with. We have not got the cognitive capacity to make the best decisions based on knowledge. We need instinct. We need to draw from the full faculty of Sophia, techne, and also phronesis in exploring how we can make the best decisions in business and how we can create new opportunities for our companies and our products and our brands. Essentially, Wang Daoism comes from the political history in China of the way in which you rule a country with supreme moral benevolence. So, if you like, it's the instructions given to rulers to rule a country with benevolence, renzheng. Now, we can easily point to where things break down and things don't work and self-interest comes in. But there are some great instances of characters who have fully embraced a Confucian idea, whether it's badged as Confucianism or not. And in our chapter on Wang Daoism by Po Kyung-ip, he gives the example of Stan Shi. And Stan Shi is the founder of Acer, the Taiwanese computer company, who advocates Wang Daoist principles in the management of the company. And when you look closely at what he's advocating, you see actually it's about very wise stakeholder management. So Stan Shi has developed his company on what he calls Wang Daoist principles, and Stan Shi came to CEIBS in June in 2012 and met with all the students and faculty and explained how, for him, this was a real motivation and guiding principle in the establishment and development of Acer as a company. And the whole point about, I think, wisdom is that it is a natural outflowing of human goodness. And Wang Daoism is built on the basis that we are good, essentially, rather than bad. And we want wise leaders. We look out for them. And we know when we don't have wise leaders. And we need to keep pressing on in the belief that ethical governance can be achieved by talking about what is wise leadership in very trying and difficult and complex circumstances.